Hello everyone, this is Wrestling Fan Talk here. So just recently, very recently, we had Cody Rhodes on the Pivot podcast. It's a popular podcast on YouTube, and one of the things he talked about was The Rock and his WrestleMania match with Roman Reigns. And one of the things he says is that some people have said that if you remember that segment on SmackDown when he gives up his spot to The Rock, and we all thought it was The Rock that was going to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and there was such a fan backlash that they had to obviously change back to Cody. Well, some people have said that in that segment, Cody Rhodes should have looked happier, that he was more happy and eager to give his spot to The Rock. Brian Gerwertz has mentioned that on podcasts previously, that it was supposed to be that way. And Cody in this podcast says that that is insane. He talks about the history and tradition of WrestleMania, about the main event of WrestleMania, especially that second night, the last match of the show, the last match of the weekend. How it's their literal Super Bowl, the literal Super Bowl of WWE. I would argue the literal Super Bowl of professional wrestling. But that's a different video at a different time. So Cody mentioned that it was insane to think that he would be happy to give up that spot. And I completely agree with him. But when we hear podcasts like this now with Cody or Brian Gerwertz, like I said, and they talk about these things, these background things, these backstage things, has to make you ask the question, is this part of the work, or is this a shoot? Is Cody shooting and trying to be honest about his feelings and expressing that he really thought Brian Gerwertz and The Rock were in the wrong to expect him to just give up his spot? Or is this sort of a pseudo work where Cody is just trying to build more heat with The Rock and building up heat with The Rock's side of things? Obviously Brian Gerwertz is on The Rock's side of things as a head writer and part of $7 production. These are all questions we have to ask ourselves. Now, this is going to be a very interesting WrestleMania season. I think we're going to have Cody versus The Rock one-on-one. I think it has to be that way. I think the story is too far progressed at this point to pivot from that. Now, I know that sounds silly because we have had a massive pivot this past WrestleMania, but I think that's obviously different. They were nearing the end of a story that the fans were heavily invested in, and they decided to pivot just as that story was ending. That was not going to fly with fans. This is different. They pivoted to a new story the night after WrestleMania with Rock and Cody, and I don't think you pivot away from that. I don't think you end WrestleMania with Roman versus Rock. Not yet. I think it's got to be Rock versus Cody right now. And where this storyline goes is going to be very interesting, but they're definitely implementing more worked shoots, especially on these podcasts. That's how I interpret it. But that's all for this one, guys. This is Wrestling Fan Talk, out.